Okay, sorry for the slight delay. Good morning and welcome to the third and final day of Expanded 2025. Over the last 2 days, we've had about 30 different talks in a variety of different fields. And today we have a pretty powerful program lined up for you in this final day of the conference. If you've missed any of the talks that you'd like to watch in the first place, the good news is that not only are we streaming this live, but we're also recording it so that it can be viewed on YouTube, or you can take a look at our Expanded conference website. We have an archive of all of the talks over the past 13 years. Yeah. So today there are a lot of interesting things going on. We can maybe take a brief look at the program. But our first panel is my absolute favorite. It's art and industry. And the reason is, working in the field of art and research, oftentimes we're asked, oh yes, it's beautiful, it's appealing, but what are the industrial applications? And every year I get 3 really interesting projects that I can say, well, this is an example of a really cool, innovative industrial application. This year in particular is a pleasure for me because not only do I know all of the people presenting today, but I'm a fan of all of their work. And so I'm really looking forward to asking some questions in our question and answer sessions today. And that's something as well. You're more than welcome after they've presented to raise your hand and ask a question. We'll bring a microphone to you and we can answer that here. Or if you're listening, watching on the web, you can also ask a question there. We'll take a look, pass the question on to me, and we can ask it in this round as well. So for our panel, Art and Industry, our first duo of presenters are from the Film Academy in Baden-Württemberg. We have Volker Helzle, who is the head of research and development at the Animation Institute at the Film Academy. And we have Andreas Dahn, who is a former student, a graduate, a filmmaker and a visual effects artist who's worked on productions like Game of Thrones and Guardians of the Galaxy. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Volker and Andreas.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Volker, this is Andreas. Thank you very much for having us and giving us the opportunity to share some of our work. I was at the Expanded Animation Conference 8 years ago. It was my second time at Ars Electronica, and I'm happy to be back. I hope to be here more often. Every time I come here, I'm very inspired by everything I see. There's a good chemistry going on around the participants. I really enjoy that. So thanks, Jake and Jürgen and everybody for having us. So yeah, today we want to give you a short introduction, keep it really concise, the information about our research and applied research activities at Animationsinstitut of Film Academy Baden-Württemberg. And quickly, the agenda is that I will introduce to Film Academy and give an overview of the work, and then Andreas will give you his point of view and an impression what it means to work with a research team more from the artistic directing side in creating a scalable location-based experience, Fate of the Minotaur. Who does not know or has never heard of Film Academy Baden-Württemberg? Everybody. Oh, Okay, good. Anyway, we've been established in '91. We are located in Ludwigsburg. That's a small city, about 100,000 citizens north of Stuttgart, 15 minutes north of Stuttgart. And it's a typical film school. You can direct, or you can study any course related to filmmaking, directing, cinematography, screenwriting, production, and of course, animation. We have, I think now it's about 600 students, about 120 of those are in animation. And what's a bit special is that we have an own institute, Animationsinstitut, which is in charge of the education for all fields related to animation, visual effects, producing, technical directing, and also interactive media. Yeah, this department of research and development that I run, historically, you know that in animation there's always been a big exposure to new technologies. We've done a lot of work in digital actors, in film, the virtual human, which seems to be a bit different today with the rise of artificial intelligence, but you'll get a good overview of the work we do related to XR today. Yeah, and then there's a strong link to the animation and games industry, which is because of our teaching structure, which is based on bringing people in from the industry to talk about recent developments in the film industry and the interactive industry. Yeah, we always link the research work with practical projects, and that is what we understand as applied science. And we're involved in a lot of regional and European level projects, and you'll get an understanding of some of these EU projects in a moment. And if you haven't heard about FMX, it's a conference that is organized by Film Academy. It happens annually in Haus der Wirtschaft in Stuttgart. Its focus is really on animation, visual effects, and new media. Next FMX next year will be in May 5th till 8th. So save the date. So yeah, extended reality, virtual, augmented, and mixed reality is a big topic. And it's something, I really like that term, extended reality, because it embraces many things, many technologies, but also the opportunity to express creativity, storytelling in many different ways. One topic that we've addressed very intensively over the years, actually back to 2007, is virtual production, the idea to virtualize certain aspects of filmmaking. And here's a very good definition, as I find, which has been defined by some people from the Visual Effects Society, defining virtual production as a collaborative, interactive, digital filmmaking process, which begins with virtual design and digital asset development and continues in an interactive, nonlinear process throughout the production. I don't want to go too deeply into these examples, just two inspirations. Motherland and Dark Matter, 2011, 2013, have been realized with the CryEngine, a game engine, which was really very top-notch at that time. And other projects were more focusing on, like Jago, on pre-visualization techniques. But we strongly believed that virtual production would revolutionize filmmaking, make it more efficient, and bring back creativity to a process that has been separated by post-production. And then in the years 13 to 16, and then later 18 to 20, big EU projects helped us to support these developments. And yeah. Then about XR, just drink something more. Yeah, in 2021, there was a large EU call. It was called the Innovation for Media, including extended reality. And we took the editorial lead in one of the proposals, which then ended up in the project Emil. You will learn more about that in a moment. We were also contributing as one partner in the proposal for the MaxR project. And usually with these EU projects, you work on the proposal, but they're very competitive and you don't know if you will get the project or not. Now MaxR, that led to a situation in fall 22, which was a bit unexpected because both projects were greenlit and we were expecting one to be approved, but then we had two projects and these two projects just ended recently, so that's why I want to give you a quick introduction to what we did there, to some aspects. So this is a quick summary of what MaxR is.
MaxR is a 30-month innovation action. MaxR stands for Mixed, Augmented and Extended Reality Media Pipeline. The project aims to define, develop, validate and demonstrate a complete pipeline of tools for making, processing and delivering maximum quality XR content. The MaxR Consortium unites a unique mixture of Europe's leading media technology developers and researchers. Stay tuned for new MaxR developments through our website and our social media channels.
Yeah, like I said, I really want to keep that very compact. So this is a typical development project. We work on tools, on pipelines and data sets to create XR content more efficiently, to create or to increase the creativity there. And one development I quickly want to promote here is the AnimHost development and the associated to that, the creation of a short film that uses this tool. The idea is to investigate the potential of AI-driven character animation by deep learning based on motion capture data. And associated to that toolset we built, we also created some prototypes around applying virtual production methodology in a more interactive, immersive way for blocking animation scenes and getting away from a linear process in which we review in dailies or weeklies and do annotations. So AnimHost is an open source software development that allows you to work on trained data and use deep learning. It is currently connected into a Blender pipeline and is based on fair and traceable use of training data. We know exactly what's in there because it's our data. And then we created the short film Survivor to evaluate that technology. I can quickly run an overview of AnimHost. Should be audio. No. Okay. No, this is there should be audio. Okay, we don't hear anything because it's okay. But you can see I can create and then I'll just talk about it. This is AnimHost. You have a couple of nodes that help you set up your scene, loading different models and then different character definitions that you then also load in Blender. So you can see it's a UI-based node interface, and it allows you to also freely put together new scenes. And in Blender, we load then the corresponding scene, get the character. And then there's a set of plugins that you need to install, which connect to our framework that's called the Tracer framework. And then by the help of spline tangents and a spline definition, you can have the character walk along that spline, and then you can set certain parameters on in space to change that. And then the interesting thing is that the data that you get back is very similar to typical motion capture data, and then you can layer that and allow the artist to layer on top of that, which means you have complete creative control over the final output, something that is very difficult to achieve with current AI approaches. And these are already excerpts from the short film. I just want to give you these specs about that. So we could use that workflow in a third of the shots and successfully evaluated, meaning that we could prove that we could increase the creativity and reduce the time to create such content. This was a very effective team of more or less 2 people, an artist director and a technical director. And we also always estimate our energy demand. We used Unreal to render, and in the end, we came up with about 600 kilowatt hours, which is very, very little. So tools are open source on GitHub and are constantly developed, and the training data as well, and also assets from the short film, which actually will world premiere at Spark Animation Festival later this month in Vancouver. And here is the trailer for Survivor. Not sure what's with the audio. Okay, that video should have had audio as well. Are you sure we had audio in the beginning? We just replug the. We can maybe replug once I hand over to you. I'm almost through with that presentation and ready to hand over to Andreas. So. This was just to give you a very little idea of what happened in Maxar. It was a big project, 11 partners, and we had other contributions as well. Please visit the website because we don't have much time here. But there's many developments. Also, Nuke Stage, which was recently announced, has been heavily developed in Maxar. The other project, EMIL, the European Media and Immersion Lab, is a bit of a different kind because the main purpose here was really to distribute a lot of money into third-party projects, FSTPs, financial support to third-party. The total budget was 8 million, and 5.6 of these 8 were supposed to go into third-party projects. So here's a really quick 60-second overview of EMIL. But we need audio. That's not going to work. Okay, I'll just replug.
EMIL. The European Media and Immersion Lab is a physical and virtual laboratory infrastructure underpinned by technological and creative expertise and research excellence from 4 key creative industry regions in Europe: Finland, Germany, Spain and the United Kingdom. The overall aim of EMIL is to promote innovation and development of next-generation XR content. EMIL will cultivate a strong relationship with the creative industry community, realised through financial support to third-party. Project calls designers, game developers, engineers, entrepreneurs, media enterprises, artists, digital fabricators, museum and heritage curators, physical and cognitive caregivers, creative coders, users, citizens and public service media operators. 2 open calls will be announced for proposals to be funded in the range of 250,000 to 500,000 euros. Stay up to date with the latest information about EMIL.
So these calls are closed. You can't apply anymore. I just want to mention that this is a quick overview of the projects that we could fund. And this funding was given to them not as a loan. It was really something that they could use towards their project idea and keep all IP to market it or do whatever they wanted to do with it. Among these projects, we don't have the time to go into it, but many medical and rehab applications, but also content applications. There is one from Coop Xscape, a Polycula, which is an Austrian company from Salzburg. They are exhibiting at the Post City, one of their exit games. So visit the website for more information, because now Andreas will tell you about the Lighthouse project. So every partner in EMIL had the opportunity to do his own Lighthouse project, and Andreas will tell you what that was and what his role in that was. Thanks.
Thanks, Volker. Okay, hello everybody. I'm Andreas Dahn. I'm the XR director of the project Fate of the Minotaur. to tell you a little bit how it came to that. Volker said they need a concept for an XR, for a VR experience or XR project, and he said that it should be story-driven, it should be interactive, it should be suited for location-based entertainment, so not for home use, but for, let's say, in shopping malls, museums, theme parks. And it should be scalable, that you're not just like locked into one use case, which is very special, because usually if you do location-based entertainment, you have a certain location for which you do it. And in this case, there was no certain location, but Film Academy is the place where we make it. For my background, I studied directing at Film Academy Baden-Württemberg, and I do visual effects since 2001 already. So even before I studied directing, I was doing visual effects. And after, so I finished my studies with a mid-length historic film called Der Sandmann, The Sandman, which is based on a quite famous German Gothic novel. And this film is still shown today, actually, in German classes and everything. And after that, I found my way into the market more as a visual effects artist, working for projects like Game of Thrones or Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Grand Budapest Hotel, to name a few. So I was working as a compositing artist on these. And then I had the chance for a residency at the Zurich Academy of the Arts. And there I experimented with virtual production for a virtual production short film I made with the Unity game engine and a VR tool to place my virtual cameras, and I worked with some mocap for that. And that landed me a job actually at the Europa Park, which is one of the biggest theme parks in Europe. And they came to me and said they needed a VR experience based on modern art of the first half of the 20th century, which led into the project Artiality, which is a free-roaming multiplayer experience where you basically walk through a kind of lucid dream of artworks of this period, which is linear, but it's free-roaming, and it's like really like a dream where you have like a 10 minutes in it, and then you basically drop out, and you could see the others which were in it with you as avatars, as Oskar Schlemmer avatars, where you just see where they are looking and where they are positioned, but still it felt like a joint experience. And for the project, for the ML project at Film Academy, I thought, okay, what can we do with it, which would fit also the funding call and everything. And I drew my inspiration from this image, which is from a Greek vase, I think, or a Greek bowl. And it shows Pasiphae, a Greek character from Greek mythology, who is the mother of the Minotaur. Who of you knows about the story of the Minotaur? Raise your hand. Yeah, most of them, yeah. Okay, so, but this actually, usually you know the story about Theseus, the mighty male hero who walks into the labyrinth and kills the Minotaur and finds his way out through the Ariadne thread and falls in love with, gets the girl and sails along and leaves the labyrinth basically and frees the people of Athens who were under the curse of giving all their human sacrifices to the Minotaur. So I wanted to take this mythology because it's part of European heritage, and it's kind of a free and known intellectual property, which helps of people getting involved and interested in the project if you don't know anything about it. And it also suggested some spatial storytelling because it's a labyrinth, which is good for a spatial experience. It had an encounter with a mythological creature, which I found interesting, and it suggested, of course, some action with the interaction with the Minotaur, and also some riddles by getting through the labyrinth. And for me as a storyteller, I found it very interesting with this image to have an unexplored empathetic perspective on the topic. That you see the Minotaur not as a monster, but as a child here actually in this image, who was kind of cursed by the gods and the story before it. In developing the experience, we had some narrative challenges. For example, the question was like, who are you as a multiplayer experience? Who are the players if you don't know much about the Greek mythology? And I really wanted to deconstruct that male mighty hero myth. And so I came up with the idea that all players are actually the human sacrifices from Athens. and you don't need to know anything about thesis. You just know, okay, you're about to be killed in the labyrinth, and you can find your way through. So that's like the escape room part of it. And there was no need for a laugh plot, and I also had to find my way through these characters, because in the labyrinth you'll meet the mother Pasiphae, who tries to convince you that the Minotaur is a tortured creature which deserves empathy, and on the other hand you meet Ariadne, and she tries to convince you to kill the Minotaur because she needs you to get off the island with you. It's a nonlinear storytelling. That means in the first part of the labyrinth, you have separate paths, and on each path you get to know different characters and different parts of the backstory. And we also have, which is quite important actually, 2 different endings. So at the end, to spoiler you a little bit, you have the choice if you kill the Minotaur or if you let him live. And based on this decision, which you have to make as a group, you have a different outcome. And it was quite challenging also to write the dialogues in a way that they work for single player and multiplayer use, and that the dialogues also as a VR experience are very clear and simple, because in VR people don't like to read and people don't like to listen, but they have to understand what they have to do. So what I found out is that it's very good to have people tell the task twice. So the first time somebody is asking me something to do, and when they then try out something or realize they don't know what to do, then they hear again, and then they understand what's the task, and that worked out pretty well for the experience. For the scalability factor, we came up with 3 different scale options for the experience: free roaming multiplayer, stationary multiplayer, which is what we as a stationary single player we showed here at the Salzamt at the Ars Electronica, and we also provided a pre-rendered linear 180-degree 3D experience, which is of course not interactive but just looking around, but much better for museums or installations where you don't need interaction or don't want to overwhelm the audience with interaction. The free roaming multiplayer was made for HTC Vive headsets because they were quite used and common in location-based entertainment. And also what was important for me, to not lock yourself into a high-tech setup which you can put up anywhere. We tried to be as minimalistic as possible. So to show this free roaming multiplayer experience, you just need the VR headsets, and all computing is done on the headsets. You don't need external computers. So that means that we had to be very precise and optimized in the art style. And so it runs on these mobile headsets. You just need the controllers to interact. And we have a laptop and a router for the connection for the multiplayer. For stationary, it doesn't need the map sharing feature of the HTC Vive. So this runs on HTC headsets and also on Meta headsets, and is reduced in its spatial requirements because the free roaming needs 8 by 8 meters play space, which is quite big, of course. And this one you just need like 2 meters by 2 meters for each participant. And the pre-rendered version is the most inclusive version, of course, also. So you don't need to have any physical abilities, just watching and maybe looking a little bit around. It's more relaxed and less stressful because you're not challenged by fighting the Minotaur. It works on any VR headset, even on mobile phones and tablets, because it's just like using the gyroscopic tracker of an iPhone, for example, or a tablet. And this version has the maximum visual fidelity because we could pre-render everything, so it doesn't have to be computed on the headsets. Interaction was also very challenging, and actually, so I learned lots of things on this project because coming from a linear film and having made a linear experience in VR where you just look around and watch, to come up with an experience that is understandable and easy to grasp for people who don't know anything about Greek mythology, who don't know anything about gaming, who don't know anything about VR, and give them a VR headset and have fun and enjoy the experience. That was, of course, also challenging. And actually, the free roaming version is even simpler to use than the local multiplayer version, because as you walk through the labyrinth with your real body and you see others where you're interacting with as virtual full body avatars, that makes it much more easy to get through the experience, because in the stationary you use the thumbsticks of the controllers, and that's much more difficult to understand and control for people who have never used VR. And we had to, well, it was also challenging to find a way to keep the onboarding as simple as possible, because of course you have to teach people how to interact with the VR world, what you can do, what you can't do, and to keep this simple and easy to understand was also a key component, which involved a lot of experimenting in the beginning. Also, for the user interface, it was important to me to keep the interaction as intuitive as possible, to have it all story world themed, and avoid as much of UI elements that would drag you out of the story. The puzzles had to be as simple as possible and work in multiplayer and single player, which was also challenging. And also it was a challenge to keep all actions inside this 8x8 meters place, which meant that we had to find ways that in a multiplayer where people can walk around a labyrinth on different paths, to collect them again at certain spots, have them solve a riddle together, and then reshape the room basically around them by telling them that they are on an elevator or something, that you say that now you have different 8x8 meters. And also to keep these 8x8 meters as a labyrinth interesting, that you not walk through the same kind of walls all the time, was an artistic challenge. And also it was important to me that because I wanted everybody to have a good experience, that it's not like a game where you can like win or lose. It's more like an experience where I try to make it as easy as possible to get through for everybody, but still be satisfying and giving you the feeling of agency in it. So to avoid this feeling of the option to fail was challenging. And for example, to give you a little insight, if you fight the Minotaur, actually you can't lose or win at this fight. It just runs for certain minutes, and then basically he breaks down no matter how hard you fought him or not, which is good because people can avoid fighting the Minotaur if they want. They don't have to hit him all the time, and they can even run away, and then he just breaks down because of exhaustion. So that was quite a good way to give everybody the feeling they can get through this game no matter how trained they are. We also faced some technological challenges, as you see here in this video, which was, no, you can't see it in the video. Doesn't run. Okay, but you see here the image at least. So one challenge was that it was a team of like 5 people working on the code, basically in Unity, and that meant we had to find ways to have them collaborate, which is in an interactive project quite difficult because people overwrite each other's code all the time, which is very frustrating. And to communicate that correctly, who's working on which files and where and when, that took quite some communication effort. Player calibration, which you saw here, was very difficult because we tried to keep it that the program actually finds out how high you are, and at the beginning we sometimes had lists like that the head was huge and the arms were short, so the calibration going completely wrong. We had some interactions with rotating wheels, which was challenging in VR. Managing the multiplayer traffic was also challenging because all the headsets had to always communicate to each other. If somebody pulls the trigger, all other headsets have to know that this happened on this headset. So, and we had our own multiplayer networking system, which was built by Film Academy actually. We had to incorporate fail-safes that if something goes wrong, that still everybody is getting through the game. And to optimize everything, that it runs on the mobile headsets without stuttering or any other issues, was also, of course, another challenge. But we succeeded in quite good ways in all of them. And actually, at the end, we found out that there's even a bonus option we found out for the game, which is a free-roaming outdoor single-player experience. So actually, I can take out as the Quest 3, opposite to the Vive headsets, and the Quest 2 also works under sunlight. I can now take the headset on an open space, or let's say in a park, or if there's not too much traffic on a parking lot, and then one person can really physically walk through the labyrinth and fight the Minotaur, which looks like this. And I was always looking out for people, that nobody bumps into them, but me. So that's always a lot of fun, actually. And so to give you an overview of the outcome, I'll show you the trailer here, and feel free to experience the experience in the Salzamt in a stationary stationary single player. We can show you that.
King of Crete, welcome you here at Knossos, where you will meet your destiny. I congratulate you on becoming the trick for the Minotaur, the creature with whose existence the gods dare to punish me and my beloved wife, Pasiphae.
My voice will guide you through these corridors.
I have a little VR headset at home, and it's just so much different being able to walk, and just keep walking instead of reaching a boundary somewhere.
It really felt big. Catch.
Oh, God. We were all in. My fear of heights got activated there, and that scared me first. And I was like, this is just a game. The sound is also pretty effective.
You're almost free!
You have made you look and really go around and fully experience the VR. Oh wait, look at this guy over here. Who's this?
I was very scared that at some point the Minotaur will jump in.
Oh no! Oh god, not me, please not me.
What?
J'ai perdu l'épée, ça!
Oh non, l'épée! I'm fine. That was sweet.
Yeah.
That was so great.
Oh, we made it. Yay! It was an awesome little plot, and I like that there are multiple endings.
I just thought it was a novel experience, even for people that do VR a lot.
It's kind of like just getting out of Disneyland.
Bye, see ya! Wouldn't want to beat ya!
And that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much for the input from both side of the Film Academy and the project Fate of the Minotaur. As Andreas mentioned, you can try this project out. Just go across the bridge, take a right, and until Sunday at 6 p.m. you can try out Fate of the Minotaur. We have multiple headsets there. I had the opportunity of trying it multiple times while I was setting it up. And I'm going to ask my first question. In the meantime, you guys all have a task, and that's to think of your own questions. And you can raise your hand, and we'll bring around a microphone to you. But my question is, and we saw this in the video, typically when you think of a maze, you think of typical games where it's just you've got the one level, and you've got the walls, and you maneuver. You have a pretty complex 3D geometry. Yeah? And it creates a sense of fear, as we heard in the video. For some people, they're afraid of heights, etc. And on the one hand, I think that's really cool because it creates more of a memorable, exciting experience. But also, you have to deal with this issue of fear. So how did you decide just how much fear can we actually employ here and still get away with it?
Actually, it's very different for people how much fear is okay for them. Of course, it's very different. I go with what's most exciting, and it's not a jump scare experience. So it was important for me to have no jump scares, and that's a sense in it. Of course, at the end the Minotaur comes out, but then you're already kind of prepared for it. And actually, it's more scary because people think there might be something. They might come some jump scares, and that's why people sometimes are afraid. But then they figure out there's just some animated mural with some background information on the Minotaur, and they are quite relaxed then to learn something instead of being jumped at with some monster. But actually, to add that, it was very different for me from coming from traditional film to come up with a narrative which works spatially, and because you can work with framings or edit cuts. And so I realized I have to work with the kind of how narrow the space is, how dark it is, what kind of colors I use. So that fueled a lot of the dramaturgic and decisions which went into it. So come up with a way of how you feel by going through the labyrinth, and when is the space small or narrow, and how much action is there, or exploring. That kind of meant like what kind of narrative structure I do also spatially, and that fueled then how much fear or relaxation is in the project. Yeah.
Okay, once again, you can raise your hand. We'll bring a microphone to you. I'm going to ask a question to Volker, though, in the meantime. So this was a Lighthouse project, and you mentioned that there were a number of projects that were funded through this framework. How do you go about deciding which projects get funding or support and which do not?
Hello? Okay, yeah, so for the open calls, there was a very clear procedure with expert reviews, scoring, and there was quite a few criteria these projects had to meet in order to get the funding, because the funding was quite big, I mean, compared to what you usually get from a film fund if you want to do an XR project. They started at 250,000, but that also meant that as a company, you would have to prove that you can handle that kind of budgets successfully through the last years, which was one criteria that a couple of people that applied, or collaboratives that applied, didn't meet. It's just one of many. I mean, I can say, unfortunately, we had to put down a couple of excellent project ideas because of basically just of not being eligible, meeting the eligibility criteria. Hopefully, I mean, we play that back to the commission. They've been very open to it. Hopefully, we can find ways in the future to make that more open to smaller collaboratives, because a lot of work is done with freelancers and people that just meet together, don't have a company structure. This funding scheme was really to help SMEs and companies that have established a little bit deeper, with a deeper foundation. And I think if you have the time, please visit the website. It's very diverse projects, some of them very serious medical applications for people with Parkinson, and a medical evaluation, which are, it's a different kind of level for evaluation when we evaluate an experience, or you go into a medical evaluation. So, and personally, I have to say that's my inspiration about XR. It's so diverse, it has so much opportunities. And I think going back to the question you asked to Andreas about, how much fear do you put in? We don't know yet. This is the interesting part, right? And you don't know what people will experience. So how do we design these contents? That's the question. And I think we don't have the one answer, but at least with Fate of the Minotaur, we can give some answers that we think content should be scalable, and it should make use of the space you have if you have it available. If not, you should be able to create the content in a way that you can present it in a reduced space and things like that.
Okay, and so yeah, content should be scalable, and also question and answer sessions could be scalable. If there's anyone who would like to ask a question, feel free just to raise your hand. We'll bring a microphone around. In the meantime, one thing that I found fascinating was sort of the approach to intellectual property. So almost all of the things that you're working on at the Animation Institute are open source, which is awesome for the industry, or at least a lot of them. I don't know if all of them are, but a lot of them are. And for these type of projects, though, they were the people that were participating were able to sort of keep whatever they were going to do. How do you navigate that, particularly in an industry that can be incredibly competitive, this sort of open source versus whatever type of license or whatever type of intellectual property that a company wants to have?
Open source doesn't mean that you cannot build a business model around it. I think that's the first thing to say. And at Film Academy, there's a long tradition in open sourcing data sets and developments as much as we can, because we're an educational institution. Money comes from public sources or from the commission. So to contribute back not just to our students in our own institution is kind of a imperative, I would think. But there's great opportunities. So remember the AnimHost application I showed you? It uses a framework for communication between Blender and that AnimHost application, which is exactly the framework we use for multiplayer communication in Fate of the Minotaur. That's been an extra effort on our behalf, but it comes with a great benefit because we aim all our developments to be engine agnostic, and that helps us to say, oh, we don't want to do Blender, or we don't want to do Unity, we want to do something else, and it's very easy to plug that in and out just as an engine and not to construct something around a technological universe that changes overnight, or somebody might take down the cloud resources that you've built on, and then you're there. So I think, to answer your question, one should think in open source and sovereign data structures in the sake of being European, somewhat European independent. That is underneath. It is also the motivation in building AI workflows, which we know exactly what's part of it and not, dubious data sources.
Andreas, so you've worked on an application that's basically, it's being deployed. You could, if anyone wants to purchase the experience for their institution organization, you can at this point. What are your sort of plans, or what are the steps to making this a marketable product? Because VR in particular has had some sort of issues the last couple of years. You can download things, distribution works quite well, but in terms of the sort of amount of, you need the technology, you might need some supervision, those types of things. How are you trying to market Fate of the Minotaur, and how would you recommend to market such products?
I think it's probably more a question for Volker. Actually, I must say we were in a lucky position that since we already had the CEU funding, we were not dependent on having it paid by somebody. That was very lucky, and actually there are it's also a choice to go for location-based entertainment or home entertainment, which changes what people know how to deal with the technology. So in this case, as we are for location-based, it was clear that there should always be somebody handing the technology over, so the people have to learn how to use a VR headset. So that's the easier part on location-based entertainment. And also the content, that's also important. If you do design experiences for location-based entertainment, people expect to get through the content in something like 20 minutes. While if you make a game on Steam or so, people expect to be entertained for several hours at least. So that's very different in how you structure your storytelling and the whole project and all your money, where you put your money in. And to how we deal now with the licensing, probably Volker can say something about it.
Well, ideally, we're looking for a good partner who is able to bring that to a constant large location 8x8 where people can experience the full free roaming experience, because that's the strongest. I mean, something that you can't experience in the smaller version is there is quite good sound on the headset, but you can still talk to the other players, which mimic their motion through the controller in a quite effective way. It's not perfect motion capture, but the animation transmits their movements, and you are a group. You can speak to each other, which is a different level of immersion, at least for me. So we're searching for such a partner. I mean, these location-based experiences are in theme parks. I hear they go exceptionally well on cruise ships, which is interesting. I think it has to find its way. And unfortunately, I think many of the contents we see out there is zombie shooters and zombie shooters 2.0. And that's hopefully, and I think we did make a point that there is a lot more to that than just shooting things up. But of course, people in a gaming-like graphics environment and would expect an end fight. So I think we found a great balance in experience and still staying somewhat within this expectation of meeting an end boss. So yeah, There's some negotiations about the licensing, and they're ongoing, but the plan is also to bring the scale option 2 that we see at Salzamt to Steam in a few weeks. I think we started the review process. I think they're quite far. So people can experience it and hopefully get interested to play the full large experience.
Okay, we do have a question in our audience. There's a hand that's raised there, but it's probably the only question we could take because we're running out of time. Okay?
Yeah, the question already fits. Do you have a survey on how many people decided to fight the Minotaur in the end and how many decided not to? And if so, was it merely storytelling whether they decided not to fight him, or did they just want to fight a virtual animal?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question, very good question. So actually, when you enter the final chamber, basically, the Minotaur comes and attacks you, and no matter what you do. But you still can decide to like avoid him and not hit him, and it's very different how people approach it. Actually, I've realized one experience was there was a father with his like 12-year-old son, and the son was like, okay, I want to kill everybody. Even like he killed the Minotaur, and then he wanted to kill the mother, and then landed on the boat, and he wanted to kill Ariadne, tried everything to kill everybody. And another 12-year-old was like, oh, are they having a sword? Yes, yeah, okay. He put on the yard. Where's the sword? and then the father of the other boy who killed, where the son wanted to kill everybody, the father came in and he was like, oh no, I don't want to kill anybody. I want keep me away. I don't want this. I want this. And so it was very interesting to see that even like in education, how it doesn't matter how you educate your kids, they can come out quite different. And to answer the question of how many, I would say it's easier to kill the Minotaur than not to kill the Minotaur, because one thing is some people believe they have to kill the Minotaur because they are expecting that from a game, which is sad actually, I think. And it's easier to kill the Minotaur or you might think you have to kill the Minotaur because he already attacked you. So some people are like, oh, he attacked me now, I kill him. And some people, sometimes also if you're in a group, that means if one of the people in the group decides to just kill him while the others are discussing, he's dead. Which is also interesting because it does something to the group. And what we do also to spoil you for that or for the end, if somebody killed a Minotaur and you land on the boat with Ariadne, she says she's not sure if she tricked you into the wrong decision actually, if it was wrong to ask you to kill her brother. And she says like, now look at your hands and you'll see that you have blood on your hands. And she said, people will remember you as the slaughterer of the Minotaur. And so we try to see, like, even if you kill the Minotaur, that it has some emotional impact on you that you made the decision. And or maybe to finish things up, also an interesting finding was in a linear version of the film where you just watch somebody go through the game and you're externally looking somebody killing the Minotaur. People are much more morally involved than if they are in the game. In the game, they have more like, I want to have fun and try things out. If they watch it as a 3D as a virtual film, they are much more morally judging on the character who kills the Minotaur in a linear film than they might be on if they do it themselves.
And there's, just to end it, there's actually 2 evaluations as public deliverables on the email website. So there's numbers in there if you want to know how many killed and how many saved the Minotaur.
It's about 2/3 kill him and 1/3 doesn't, I would say, average.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's give a warm round of applause. And we're going to go ahead and move right ahead with our next duo. We seem to have lots of duos today. We have Philipp Seifried and Regina Reisinger, who have been working in the Austrian game industry for 13 years, 15 years, more. I've lost count specifically. Our students often ask if there is actually even a game industry in Austria, and of course there is. And both of these artists have worked at various companies in Austria. And for the last couple of years, they've had their own company, Microbird Games, and they have their first very successful release, Dungeons of Hinterberg, which they're going to tell us about a little bit today. So let's give a warm round of applause to Regina and Philipp.
the laptop screen is just off and I have no idea what's going on. Ja, same here. Warte doch noch, bis wir da ein Bild haben. It's just bad. It worked like 20 minutes ago. Ja, ihr habt nicht mal auf dem Schirm. Ach so, das Bild. Ja, fein runter und wieder rauf. Ja. Ja. Warte, jetzt habe ich mal zumindest ein Bild hier. Okay. Beautiful.
Okay, hello, let me tell you about how to do technical stuff. So we are Regina and Philip, we're the founders of Vienna-based indie game studio Microbird, and we're gonna talk about creativity despite constraints, and specifically with the example of our game project, Dungeons of Hinterberg. Does anybody know it? Awesome. So Dungeons of Hinterberg is a single-player genre mix of action RPG, think like Zelda, and social simulation. And it's set in a fantastic version of the Austrian Alps, where dungeons have appeared and you go on vacation to explore them. I'll show a little trailer so we all know what we're talking about. Some PlayStation advertising. We're good. Okay, so just a little bit about the scope of the game. It's about 20 hours of gameplay and 25 handcrafted dungeons, 5 bosses, 20 enemies, 4 overworlds inspired by Austrian biomes, and 20 characters, and over 250 dialogues and cutscenes. That's all just to say it's a very big project for a comparatively small team, and we're gonna focus in this talk about what kind of tricks and shortcuts and techniques and decisions we made to be able to make a big game with a small team. So a bit about the history. Philip and me did a prototype for this game starting in March 2020. We sat at home during lockdown, so it was a perfect time. We got a small grant from the Austrian government that helped start us, and then about after a year, we started pitching the game around. And usually for a game that takes several years, you will need some outside investment. And for that, we managed to partner with Microsoft and a British publisher called Curve Games. And then after we knew we could finance the project, we slowly started production and ramping up the team at the end of 2021. And the game released in July 2024, so pretty much exactly a year ago. At the height of production, we were up to 10 people. If you average it out, it was basically 5 or 6 people working full-time for 4 years, so 43K hours of work, and the budget was in the low 7 figures. And it's available on basically all platforms. When it released, it was quite well received. It has a Metacritic score of over 80, which is great, and is 93% positive on Steam. My favorite Steam review is, "This game is so amazing, I wish Austria was real." Don't we all? Yeah, so that was a bit about the framing, so let's talk about the production. The art style. The art style from the beginning, it was clear to us that we wanted to do something very stylized, both because we love stylized media, but also because we knew we wanted to make this project with a smaller team, and we couldn't obviously go for realism or anything that would need like extensive amounts of work and levels of detail. We did this cel-shaded style with outlines, and our inspiration came a lot from outside of games. For example, European comic illustrators like Möbius, the whole Ligne Claire movement, so very like bold colors and flat colors with outlines, but also from movies, for example, like Into the Spider-Verse and how they did visual effects and all that. And of course, Austria was a big inspiration, as it's said here. And during hiring, it was also really important for us to have people who are kind of generalists or can do more than one thing. Again, we're not a team that can afford to have, like, I don't know, a foliage artist or someone who only does character hairdos. So, for example, we had a level designer who could also do a bit of scripting and coding and do his own puzzle mechanics, or every 3D artist in the team is also quite a quite okay 2D artist and can do UI art and stuff like that. Yeah, one of the basic, most important technological things we did is Philip built a custom deferred render pipeline, basically, that's built on top of Unity, so the game engine's built-in render pipeline, and this allows us to do this flat comic style. Not to go into too much detail, but we have kind of a system of material IDs on top of the Unity system, so we can assign every material a special ID, and then every, I don't know, ID number 5, for example, can be black outlines, but in another setting, we can override this or assign a different ID that would give the same tree differently colored outlines or different colored shadows and so on, so we can really drive the mood of every biome to be really distinct. Also, a way to produce faster is not to produce everything yourself. Unity as well as Unreal Engine, they both have extensive asset stores where you can just buy a lot of third-party assets, especially common stuff like trees, crates, barrels, and rocks. And our style really helped us to be able to incorporate all kinds of assets. Like if we went for, a half-realistic style or something, we would have had to find assets that fit exactly into this visual to be able to use them in the same scene. But we were a bit more free with that because we could buy an asset like this rock up there, and then sometimes with a bit of texture manipulation in Photoshop and then feeding it into our own render pipeline, everything can kind of look Hinterberg style pretty easily. The same here on the right, we have a normal map that could be rendered in a realistic PBR kind of rendering, but if it goes through our pipeline, it also becomes flat, and every where the normals change a lot, automatically an outline is applied, stuff like that. Yeah, and we really try to lean into that, into the same principles with the assets that we did do ourselves. For example, everything is low poly modeled, just because if we went for a realistic style, we had to do a high poly model and then bake it down onto a low poly model to be performant enough. That would all take a lot of time and have a big Rattenschwanz attached to it. So if you want to change something, you have to change it in the beginning and then rebake it and then retexture it and then reapply it. And we tried to cut out all these steps so that we could be just really, really nimble and fast. So flat colors, again, quite bold. And then we do just some extra steps, again, for our rendering pipeline. For example, the guy on the top right, that black and white picture defines where's skin and where's clothes. And then it feeds back into the system of IDs, where the ID for skin means a reddish outline and like subtle shadows, and the ID for the clothes could mean a dark outline and darker shadows. Yeah, so it's easy, it's efficient, it has no rat's tail, and yeah, it allows us to just skip steps that we would have needed to do for different styles. Okay.
I'll take over. Hi. I'm going to talk a little bit about our character and animation workflow, and I'm just going to echo what Regina said 100 times, which is that we were a fairly big project, but a very small team. We didn't have a dedicated animator, but we are a team of generalists. Like, I did a lot of the technical animation. We have a second coder on the team who can also animate. But for most of the time, we didn't have to, at least not from scratch. And if you're not in the games industry, or if you're not a very technical person, I think one of the takeaways from this talk might just be how far away the workflows in an indie game production are when we're talking about animation, how far away the workflows are from just someone sitting down and doing a walk cycle by themselves. Oftentimes we reuse animations that we buy on the asset store, but this is also just where the journey starts, so let me take you through it. Interesting detail if we're talking about how the art style enables us to get away with integrating third-party assets with all their imperfections or their peculiarities. All of our enemies have this goo running off of their body, and almost all of our enemy animations come from some third-party asset pack that we bought on the Unity asset store and then tweaked and modified. But what this goo does a lot is it helps smooth over like inconsistencies or imperfections. It makes the animation quality a bit less of it makes it a bit less important, which is another thing where I think the art style really helped us sort of get away with a bit more basic art than we would have needed to produce if we were going for a photorealistic or more realistic style. Anyway, so what we did for most of the enemies, not all of them, but most of them, was to get asset packs, buy some creature on the asset store that comes with some animations, and then model our own enemies around the existing rigs and animations. This is a good process to get something done very fast. It comes with some limitations. Sometimes it just works very well, but usually it comes with a limitation that, well, you have a limited selection of assets on the store. I think we bought all of them. They often come with missing animations, like oftentimes you would want your enemy to be able to strafe left or right, or to do, I don't know, some sort of magical attack that the asset that you bought does not provide, so you have to find a way to supplement those. And you know, timings in an action game are really important, like the character freezing during the anticipation of a big attack, and usually that is something that really needs tweaking if you work with store-bought assets. So if we're talking about the limitation that oftentimes these character packs that you can get from third parties are missing animations that you need, there's a workflow that's called animation retargeting that can help a lot with that. So in traditional character animation for games, you would have animations being specified in terms of the positions or rotations of bones, right? How is your shoulder rotated? Where is the position of that bone at any given time? And then the lower arm, and then the hand, and so on and so forth. And that's how animations are typically authored. In animation retargeting, you're expressing animations in a different space. You're expressing them in terms of muscle values, such as how many % is your arm bent? Is it fully open or is it fully closed? With the advantage being that you can then transfer these animations easily between different rigs. All you need is a rig where you specify, okay, this is actually the arm and it can bend this or that much. So that's a workflow that lets us supplement missing animations. We get an enemy from the asset store. It might not come with every animation that we need. Maybe we need a knockdown animation that this creature does not have. We can supplement that from a different pack, as long as both are humanoids, right? As long as both are bipeds, as long as they match the setup that Unity, our game engine, needs for this retargeting process. Timings are still something that we need to tweak, and oftentimes with this process, the positions are off. Like if this guy hits the ground with his big club, and we give that same club to the player character on the right, then the club will end up in a different position, and that often leads to intersections that you don't want. So if we take our pipeline a step further, we end up at a plugin for Unity that's called UMotion. That's actually made in Austria. And it's a really cool product. Like you can get it on the Unity Asset Store, and it's basically a full character animation suite where you can animate right in the editor. So right in the scene, which is super cool if you're doing any sort of more complex cutscenes that you can animate right in the editor. And it comes with humanoid controls, it comes with inverse kinematics, it has additive layers, so it has a pretty, good feature set for animating stuff. All the animations that we actually did in-house and that were custom-made for Dungeons of Hinterberg were done in UMotion, so big recommendation from me. But this is what we usually do. Like on the left, you can see the store-bought asset. I don't know why the GIF is so choppy, but I think you can get the general gist of things. What you see here is the store-bought asset, and you can see that this guy has a big sarcophagus, so his arms are very wide. And on the right, our guy just has this tree trunk, so we needed to reposition the arms to make the animation match the character. And you might also notice here that he's putting the sarcophagus down before taking it up again and slamming it into the ground, pardon me, which we did not want in our animation. So we did, for most store-bought animations, we went through a process where we tweaked them to what we wanted in the game. But there's still a much better starting point than starting from scratch and having someone sit there and do like 100 or 200 or I think maybe 500 animations in our case from scratch. So in general, again, we start with store-bought assets for most of our enemies. The bosses are an exception, and we have some enemies that I think we animated entirely in a procedural manner. But for like 90% of the enemies, that's the starting point. Then we supplement anything that's missing. And then at the very least, we retime the attacks. But oftentimes we do deeper changes. And only about 5% of the hundreds of animations that we have in the game were done from scratch, like this very good boy. Let's talk a little bit about our facial rig setup. This is also something that can get very, very complex in game development. Like facial rigs are a lot of effort per character usually. You model out all these features and then you do either complex rigs in order to have the character be able to blink, or you do blend shapes, but either way, it's a ton of effort per character to get these things to work. And so what we really wanted, because we have dozens of characters in the game, was a system that would let us get away with as little modeling and rigging effort as we could, and where hopefully we would be able to reuse facial animations across characters rather than animating those dozens of faces. So the setup we ended up with is completely custom built. We built it in-house, and it's decal-based, and that works really well with our art style. So if you look at this abomination on the left, you see that the face is sort of made up of cubes, and those project textures onto the underlying surface. That's what a decal is. It's a projection of a texture onto a surface. And so in the game, you don't see the cubes, you just see like where the cubes intersect the skin, that's where the facial features are applied. So each of our faces has a setup that comes with a little atlas of eyes, mouths, eyebrows, and so on and so forth. And it comes with parameters for how far these elements can move. Like an eyebrow can go up so and so high, or down so and so high, or can rotate left or right. And this is a lot like animation retargeting, right? We have a setup that lets us specify facial animations in terms of, I don't know, how much to the right is this pupil looking, or something like that. So to show you this in action, this is an example. This is the setup we built. You can switch between, open and closed or semi-closed mouths. You can move those up or down. If you looked very closely, you might have seen that the chin actually moved with the mouth. So it's actually a hybrid system where we do have some bones that get moved along with the facial features. But we can animate all these parameters. So we can have her, change between a surprised mood and a happy mood, or an angry mood, or whatever. So there's a ton of little parameters over here that we can animate, and we almost have something like a basic rig control, like you would see in a 3D software for this. But this is all done inside Unity. And so we end up with a set of animations, and we end up with a set of constraints. How far can the mouth go up or down? How far can the eyebrows go up or down? Which ends up giving us a solution where we can reuse the same set of facial animations for all the characters in the game. We're flexible enough that we can swap in specific animations where we want that, like we have an influencer character who blinks a lot. But in general, we get away with having like one talking animation for all the characters in the game. We only supplement those with specific animations where we feel it sort of matches the character. So that was the workflow for enemies and characters, and that neatly ties into the topic of how we do our cutscenes, or again, most of our cutscenes. A lot of the stuff we're doing takes this kind of thing as a basis and then builds on top of it. But at the very bottom of our pipeline, we have a dialogue system that's called Dahn. That's a third-party system that wasn't developed by us, but it's really cool for doing dialogue and for adding your own commands in a simple scripting language to those dialogues. So what we have here is a very basic script where the guy does a gesture where he holds his left hand up while we're setting the camera to like a default setting. He delivers a line. Then we change into a different camera. He does a different gesture, pushes out his arms wide, and delivers a second line. And that's how it's being translated into our engine. So that's what the dialogue code looks like. And this is, again, something we've built in-house, where we were looking to get as much flexibility out of the system, and we were looking to get to a place where we can author things really, really quickly. What we built was a system of moods, gestures, and poses. A mood is simply what the facial animation is doing. Like, is he looking angrily? Is he looking happy or surprised? And we've seen the controls for that. We've seen that the facial animation system takes care of that. Gestures are short animations, like throwing out your arms or shaking your head or nodding or something like that. And the third element here are poses. Is the character sitting? Is he standing, leaning against the wall, lying on the ground, that sort of thing. And all of these we can set independently to a degree. So we can have the dialogue system make him sit down and then still play his shake head animation or left hand up gesture or whatever. And the way this works is quite a technical setup. I'm only showing this for those of you in the audience who have some experience with Unity animators. I think the main takeaway for them is that we have a ton of layers in our character animator. What we're doing is we're splitting all the gesture animations up across 5 or 6 layers. So the left hand up animation has a component on the torso, on the left arm, on the right arm, on the head, and so on and so forth. And the underlying poses, like the character sitting or standing or lying on the ground, can disable some of these layers, which means that if my character is sitting on a bar stool, the bar stool sitting pose can disable anything about the gestures that the character might be playing that uses the legs. Or maybe he's sitting on the ground, or they're sitting on the ground, and the hands are resting on the knees, and we want to disable everything about the gestures that moves the hand-eye K targets or something like that. So that gives us a lot of flexibility in combining gestures, which are animations, with poses, which are also just animations. And what we end up with is a system that's completely generic. We can, again, use retargeted animations to apply the same poses and gestures to all our characters. But we can easily swap in replacements. Like, something we're usually doing is we have a specific idle pose per character, because that's something you see a lot. And one character might be, standing very self-confidently, and another character might be a little more shy. So it pays off to put resources into that, and we can do that selectively. And the system is also flexible enough that we can, add and play specific animations wherever we find it necessary. A lot of our cutscenes need something like this character, I don't know, takes out their sword or something like that. But the general result is that we have a way of very quickly authoring simple cutscenes and very, very quickly setting up our characters, of which, again, we have a few dozen. And rather than setting up a specific facial rig per character, like the old-fashioned way, or doing blend shapes or something like that, which comes at a really high cost per NPC, we end up just modeling them, rigging them, and then the facial setup and all this dialogue setup just takes us a couple of hours per character. So our tip, if you wanna do a big project with a small team in the game space, is think about your tech and invest in it, and go with an art style that lets you get away with little imperfections. It helped us immensely to have a team of generalists. We're currently prototyping our next project. We're always on the lookout for people who are technical animators with Unity experience and who are into all the stuff that we just outlined. Because again, we did not have a dedicated character animator on the last project. We're not going to go with a full-time character animator this time around either, but someone who's into cinematics and who's into setting up complex pipelines. If you're that person, talk to us. If you're not that person, talk to us as well. Just say hi. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for the very interesting presentation. I think that was the best animation and game cheat sheet for our student projects that we've ever seen. I also think that you're going to get about 20 applications from students sitting in the audience.
Cool.
I can almost guarantee that, so there'll be plenty of applicants coming your way. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to skip my questions for the moment and just ask for you guys in the audience to ask a question. Go ahead and raise your hand. I see someone over here. Bring a microphone and ask away.
Hello. Thank you very much for this talk and the beautiful project. Maybe two small questions, if I may. The first one, you said at the first stage you were governmental funded. Was this an arts funding rather, or industry funding?
It was a creative impact prototype funding. It was just 50,000. Like, it got us through half of the first year when it was the two of us working on the prototype.
It got you through the pandemic. So
yeah,
exactly. But it doesn't exist in this form anymore, unfortunately. Like the prototype programs, not there anymore.
Yeah. And the second, did I forget it now? The second one? No, again. It's a huge project for a small Austrian team based in Vienna. And in the game industry, there's a lot of talk about, crunch times and deadlines and maybe exploiting your team or whatever. In your small team, how did you deal with these important questions, treating a team fair and keep it motivated, etc. Because you had these big companies behind,
Well, the honest answer to that is people on our team did not crunch, but we did. Like, we worked a 60-hour week for 4 years in a row. When I say people on the team did not crunch, what I mean by that is it might have happened that someone did like a 45-hour week before a milestone and then got the time off the next week or something like that. When we did not exclude that altogether, but all our employees worked 38.5 hours per week on average.
Congratulations.
I remember actually we invited you guys last year and you were wanting to come, but you've just been working so hard, so much. That you said maybe next year, and we were really happy we were able to get you this year. Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? Volker's up there in the front.
Yeah, very interesting. So I know what to play on PlayStation as my next game. I'm wondering, when you were saying we work a lot with generalists, or if you're a generalist, come to us. Can you outline how important technical knowledge and knowing aesthetics, design, and technology is for you as a small team?
Do you want to take this?
Yeah, we can both. I mean, especially from the art side, having a good feeling or understanding of the aesthetics is super important. Like, I'd rather teach someone how technically something works, but then they know how to apply it in an appealing way than having someone who knows the tools, but you feel didn't really understand the style or something like that. But working on a game in the engine, it's always it's always important to us that people bring some technical understanding. I think like we don't have anyone even on the art side on the team who doesn't have to work in the engine, for example. Like there's no one who just sculpts or models characters and then he hands it off to some technical person because the person doesn't really exist. So at least understanding how to implement your own things to a certain degree.
So everybody commits into the game.
Yeah, exactly. For example, everyone put stuff directly in there, and sure, for the complex stuff, a programmer might do the last steps, but yeah.
Can you maybe say what your background is, where you come from, what you did before you decided to take on that adventure?
Well, we've both worked in the games industry for, I think, 7 or 8 years for me before we started this company. We worked together in other companies. Your experience in the games industry is even longer. So I think we only dared to take on such a big project because we knew at least like how to set up a big project, how we both had managing experience when it comes to other people and so on. And so I'm more from the art side. I studied in Salzburg 3D art and games, and you are now more the technical side, but do you want to?
Yeah. I also have a background in media design. Like I did a Fachhochschule like 20 years ago, and since then I've been doing more and more programming, but I'm sort of coming from a direction where I like to combine artsy stuff with codey stuff. So I'm doing a lot of shader work. I like doing technical animation, but I also did gameplay code, wrote the dialogue for the game, and just did all kinds of stuff, really.
And we really probably have one graduate, I think, in your company, Philip.
I'm sorry?
I think we have one graduate, Philip Schutz.
Yeah,
he's still there, I believe. Yeah.
And he's an absolute Swiss Army knife. Like, he's a guy who can animate, even though he's a programmer. Fantastic.
Well, we're going to have to move on to our next talk, but this was incredibly inspiring. Thank you very much for the talk. Thanks for coming, and enjoy the rest of the Ars Electronica Festival. Let's give a warm round of applause for
Thank you.
Microbird Games. So we had a couple of minor technical difficulties, and so we're going to have to rush on to our next duo. But just like we had in the pandemic, we have someone who's online here as well. I'd like to welcome Dinko I can't take the talk today, Dragonovic, and Christian Steininger. Dinko actually teaches at our institution, screenwriting, and is an independent filmmaker, and is currently working on his first feature film, I believe. And Christian, who will be joining us online, is currently an art director and head of post-production at Fora Film in Linz. So let's give a warm round of applause for our two next speakers.
So hi, my name is Dinko, and I'm a film director working in advertising for more than 10 years. As my colleague already said, besides that, I work on some short films, and at the moment I work on my first feature film. So I'm here today to present Take a Risk, Visit Linz, the different kind of tourism campaign for the city of Linz, which was created, big surprise, with some AI magic. So a little background info. Take a Risk was produced by a production company from Linz, which is called Fora Film, and it was written and directed by my colleague and friend Sinisha and myself. The AI visuals were created by Christian Steininger, who unfortunately, due to a knee surgery, can't stand by my side, but he's sitting at home ready to talk to you at the Q&A after my presentation. Of course, doing a film project with AI visuals doesn't only take 3 people. There are a lot more, like our lovely DP, Lukas Kronsteiner, who helped us do a really great job on the film part. So, the Linz Tourism Board went for a big rebranding campaign in the last year, changing the whole design and the main color to attention-grabbing yellow. Maybe some of you people saw some of the visuals in the city. We have it also on our beam, which goes through the city. And But the biggest change wasn't the introduction of a new color, it was the new claim, which is also the logo at the same time. Take a risk, visit Linz. Like it's a call to action actually, and a funny invitation, like if you dare visit a special city which is different than all the other stereotypes you expect from Austria. In other words, expect the unexpected. So, after all that was introduced, they asked us to create yet another video for the city of Linz, a commercial which would mainly do one thing, introduce the new branding. And this was our task, actually. So here you can see some parts from the briefing. To be completely honest, we almost didn't fulfill any of those points. You will see it later. Maybe the last one, the humor part and the self-irony, but we'll see later. I have to dial a little bit back at this point because we have some history with the tourism board of Linz. In the last couple of years, we produced a couple of films which set the tones for the years to come with a completely different approach in tourism advertising. So in the summer of 21, we made the first anti-tourism film where we basically said, please do not visit Linz. We claimed that we were superior to Vienna and Salzburg and compared Linz to cities like London or Paris, even to Berlin. And this ad really went through the sky. In a couple of days, we had over 1 million views on all social media platforms, and Linz is Linz was talked about on all major TV stations and newspapers. It really went crazy viral. Even our former mayor, who was on vacation back then, had to give an interview, and he didn't know about the situation which was going on at home, and so he said he's against it, which gave us another viral boost. So you have to have luck sometimes also. The summer after that, we made a commercial short film called Planet Linz. It's a 10-minute film where 2 American astronauts, who were supposed to be the first human beings on Mars, went on their way with their rocket to visit Mars, but suddenly they decided to return, and from all places in the world, they decided to land in Linz, just to have a taste of the famous Linz cake. So then we went on to finish our trilogy. In the summer of 23, we did another fun project, The Prince of Linz, where we basically said that anyone who visits our city will get super rich. But we didn't talk about money rich. We showed a young tourist getting rich off of great experiences, like tasting the best food, getting his ass kicked by an MMA fighter, or protesting for a better future. Right. Back to our briefing. So our trouble wasn't how to fulfill this briefing, it was how to do ourselves. After all these odd but trend-setting tourism campaigns we did. So at that point, we did what everyone does these days. We asked ChatGPT for some advice. Well, we didn't ask it what to do, actually. But as we knew we wanted to do something with AI and risk, we asked, why are people afraid of AI? And, you know, the answer was kind of obvious in some way. Job loss, loss of control, existential risk. It almost seemed like stuff that far-right people would say against immigrants or something. But this was kind of enough to inspire us to create a video which would introduce the new claim. Maybe some of you already seen the video, I guess you have, but let's have a look.
Was lauert denn hier hinten? Hä? Es ist... Was ich sag's euch, unsere Stadt hat sich verändert, das ist ein Wahnsinn.
Ich trau mich gar nicht mehr auf die Straßen, es kommt von überall her.
Und die Hocken nehmen uns auch gleich weg.
Urlaub in dieser Stadt, das ist ein absolutes Risiko. Wir verlieren die Kontrolle.
I thought this was a safe city, but actually it's more like the Wild West here. Linz wollte immer modern sein, jetzt habt's den Scheiß.
Hab ich mit euch. Na schaut's. Meister, guck mal. Guck dir das an.
Oh mein Gott! Oh Mann!
Take that, Elon!
Nicht schon wieder! Total nicht arbeiten! Scheiße, ich weiß nicht, was das hier ist, aber wir rennen. ونبي هلال
Was ist hier los?
Du riechst nur Farm.
Wer nichts riskiert, der verliert.
Yeah, so it's actually these windows behind me, I think. Hopefully we didn't predict the future. I have to admit, when we do these kinds of films, we never know how it's going to play out, honestly. But in some kind of way, this one really went well. It went viral, so to say. Lots and lots of newspapers made a story out of it. We even got featured on the Lertzer's archive this week, which is an international magazine that presents the world's most creative ads. And as you can tell, they really love the exploding sausage. So what was immediately noticeable is that it polarized. You know, the opinions were split. A lot of people loved it. We have picked out some English YouTube comments, and of course, as expected, some of them didn't. AI gets a lot of hate out there, I guess. But the best thing that can happen with such a project is that you make people talk about it. Talk about this product. So in this case, the city of Linz. So it worked, kind of. Now, let's talk a little bit about how it was made. So from the get-go, we knew we have two big parts, the storytelling part and the AI part. The first part was set always in the real world with real people talking about some kind of problem. And the second part, the AI part, which we called very early the LSD trip, because we always knew it's going to feel like it. And in the end, it really did. It's like a fever dream. So I know that my colleague Sinisha, we started like talking about this project a year ago. He always wanted to do an LSD trip, LSD trip, LSD trip. So it stuck with us, you know. So and at first, we start in this real world with a documentary style, dirty camera, which is handheld, which seems to interview different kind of people on the streets. And then they seem to be afraid of something. Something's going on in the city, but we don't know what it is. So we can only assume what it could be. I mean, the idea was to lead the viewer on a different or wrong path, like nobody knows what's going to happen at the green point in the film. So then we proceed to just end up to see what they actually were talking about: mental AI visuals taking over the city and embodying exactly what we wanted to express visually, expect the unexpected. With all the yellow, we introduced a new colorway in a very obvious way, I think. So now I will try to give you a little glimpse into the technical side of our so-called LSD trip. Although I have to admit, Christian is the expert who cannot be here, but he's ready for the Q&A via video call. I will maybe explain it to you like I'm the 5-year-old. But let's see. So we started about a year ago. That's when our script was finished. And our Instagram feeds were full of AI-generated videos back then, which looked something like this. where some normal scene evolved into an absurd, abstract AI trip. So this was our first inspiration. You can already see the similarities to our project. And this was like something which we really liked because it wasn't perfect. It didn't look like a commercial, like an ad. And what actually happened is that some artists online made AI image to video, but what we realized is that it isn't ready yet. It's especially not ready for advertising. So back then we thought maybe these imperfections are actually the joke and our visual strategy. So that's where we started. So then we proceeded to do some tests with different apps. And it was perfect because AI did some unexpected things, which was exactly what we needed, expect the unexpected, right? So first we started, I think this was the very first input video we recorded as a test. You can see Christian walking in front of our office. And yeah, that's basically it. And now you can see the result. And this was basically the first test we did. We shot a video, paused it at some point, and then took the last frame, a still frame, put it in the AI app, and generate from there. So the tricky part was not only that it looked very cheap and quirky, but we liked it kind of. We wanted to use that style. The second tricky part was that editing the real footage with the generated one so that you won't notice a jump in the edit. And then we tested a lot of different apps. You have to imagine this was a year ago, so the AI world changed very quick. Now it looks different, but at least back then, none of those apps worked very good for our purpose. And then we found Kling AI, which worked best for image to video, and it had back then a very good high quality output and reacted very well to prompts, also to changes in prompts and so on. And it was very quick. It didn't take a lot of time to generate. So then we started testing some of our scenes and used Christian and me as a stand-in just to see what kind of things we can do with the software. It took us actually a couple of weeks and then months of testing, prompting, and having loads and loads of output from this one app to prepare the best for the shoot, which took place in last February. So you can see me spitting out a big sausage casually. Yeah. So we had to generate many and many variations just to find out what's the best one and which fits best in our edit. Because very early on after our shoot, we already had an edit version with a lot of free room in the LSD trip part of our edit. So especially with the sausage, I think we had like 150 different variations, and you look through all of them and realize, okay, they actually doesn't work. I think the hardest part, but maybe Christian can tell you later, was to get the cheese out of the sausage, because all the first generations were with smoke and dust. And I think he actually ended up using a generated AI clip and generating on the finished generated clip, if you understand what I mean. So AI on AI, so to say. Here you can see some outputs which didn't make the cut. We had like 200 of them, or maybe more even. And as we all know, AI stuff is evolving very fast, like than anything else in history. So while we were preparing and testing the app and so on, the apps changed, the apps got better. So we realized that all of the outputs almost looked like proper CGI and not like some quirky Instagram video anymore. So we had to, on the run, we had to change our strategy a little bit. And it wasn't anymore about funny AI imperfections. Now we needed to focus on high quality outputs that look actually great. while still maintaining the idea of using AI randomness, which happens while generating our visual style. So actually, the idea we had in the beginning to have this quirkiness and imperfection, we still use till the end, because a lot of these things just happened randomly, right? What we didn't want to do from the beginning is to generate AI content from zero. So we wanted to generate our own stills, which would match the live action footage. As you can tell, a lot of videos we see now online, which represent some AI video generative app, are generated from zero. And that's actually what we didn't want. We want our AI look to look the same as our live action footage. So what we also use the practical effects. Like you can see here, it's actually colored, its face cream colored in yellow, which drops on her face is not AI generated, it's like a practical effect. So that's what we try to do, to organically mix AI footage with real life footage, is to use some practical effects like this one to make it match in the edit. On the shooting days, what we basically did, besides all the scenes we had prepared in the script with actors, talking heads, and so on, is to shoot these stills, which we used as templates for the input for Kling AI. So, yeah, out of these stills, these scenes or other scenes were then generated. Here you can see some early tests for the rocket scene on the main square. This is an example where we took real-life footage with Christian and had a very quick camera pan, and we edited the two footages with a very simple editing trick in the quick pan, which you can see right now. So this was just one simple trick how to match the two footages, the real one and the AI-generated one. And as you've seen in the film, the finished scene looked like this. Where we didn't use a quick pan here, we decided in the edit to just go with a straight hard cut, and we amplified the live action scene with practical effects like wind, light effects, and smoke, as you can see here, to again match the two sides. So to finish it up, in the first part, we used live action footage. Then in the second part, we had all the funny AI clips. And to make our LSD trip even worse, we took the first and last frames of those generated clips and let AI, Kling AI in this case, invent an unexpected transition between them. So in all the blue lines, you can see we generated yet another AI on those already edited clips, just to have a seamless edit between all the sequences, as you can see here. These are basically 4 different scenes transitioned with AI. And after some further retouch, which Christian did in DaVinci, I guess, music production, of course, and very important for this project, very good sound design, our film was finished. And I think we didn't just try to visualize, take a risk, visit Linz. We also took a risk ourselves by producing this video, as we didn't know if it's going to work out. But it seems it paid off, because otherwise I wouldn't be here bragging about it. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is Christian joining us for the question and answer as well, or? Yes. Perfect. So we can get that set up. I'm certain there are questions in the audience, so you can go ahead and raise your hands. Yeah, bring a microphone over there, and we'll start with our first question.
I'm curious if you, as an entrepreneur or like a businessman, are you afraid that AI will come to level that everyone can do it by, you know, stealing away, taking away your own business?
I wouldn't say afraid, but how should we know? We don't know. I think the possibility is there, but I'm not too concerned about it because I think at some point there will be so much AI content that maybe people will would love to see content which is not generated by AI. I think, but the future in our branch looks like this, that, I mean, we use it already. Everybody uses AI in their work or private life as assistants or something. So I think in the first phase, probably it will go in this direction, that people learn how to use it in different fields. Doesn't have to be advertising, as just assistants and a helping hand, you know. So I'm not afraid, but let's see what happens. Nobody knows.
One thing that occurred to me is I'm familiar with all of the Linz commercials, or the Linz advertising videos. How do you manage to not get sort of typecast as a director, in the sense that, you know, people have seen this and it's like, okay, and then I want that as well? To what extent can you sort of balance you want to be recognized, you want to have a definable style, but at the same time you don't want to be typecast, oh, it's another one of those videos?
Yeah, I mean, when Linz came out like 4 years ago, we had a lot of mails incoming. We want to have the same thing. We also want that kind of crazy film, that kind of advertising in tourism. And then you quickly realize they really don't want to, because they're afraid of it, actually, to go this step and doing something actually crazy, or actually interesting or different than the others. So we did some little films after that which were similar but not quite there, because I think in advertising it's difficult. Not many clients have the courage to do it. So we are not typecast because of this project, because we do a lot of other projects also. So we are kind of famous for that, but also for different things which are not too crazy.
Another question up here. Bring up the microphone.
Hello. I have two questions, actually. The first one, because I also experimented a little bit with AI on a music video. I have two questions. The first one would be, were there ideas where you had your plan and your script and you know what you wanted to have, but no matter how you prompted it, the AI didn't put out the video that told the story point you were? And the second question is, I know that sometimes if you use like the work of end frame or first frame, that the AI immediately crushes color schemes or crushes black levels or changes the color grading, that you have to then adopt from the original clip or regrade the AI. So how did you deal with that also?
Yeah, I think the second question is actually for Christian. Maybe if you heard the question, would you answer it?
Yes, it's about hello, first of all, and thanks for being a little part in this presentation. I think the question was, what was the input for the generation? Is that right?
No, do you hear me now? Hello?
Wait, I will just repeat the question.
Yeah.
The question was, because when you generate AI clips, it changes sometimes the color, the blacks, and so on, how we managed to match it with our footage.
Yes. All right. Yeah, normally you get log footage out of the cameras, and we tried it with the unsaturated flat images, but it quickly turned out that it doesn't work because, like you maybe assume, it makes it more saturated and it doesn't fit the original image. So you have to convert it in the first place into Rec 709 or sRGB color space, and then upload the image to get a nice result.
But I think wasn't the question like when we finished generating how we matched it to the other footage, you know, having these jumps in the edit and having color jumps and so on. I think, yeah, that was the question. Because, you know, the generated material looked a little bit different than the original, and then...
Yeah, that's classic color grading, I would say. Like doing the magic in the post to fit it together. So make it more less contrast to get rid of the glossy look and put some analog textures on it, put some camera movements on it, and yeah, I think that's the way to make it look more realistic.
I mean, what we also did is we used the match cut feature in DaVinci to like cut the seamless cuts. We always had a little jumps because the generated material always changes a little bit, and we have a little jump in the cut, and we used like seamless cutting, match cut effect in DaVinci to make it seamless. And we also used handheld camera effect on both sequences to make it a little bit wobbly. So the whole style of our commercial was that way, to hide imperfections, actually. If we would have a glossy ad, it would be way more difficult to hide those cuts. So coming back to the first question is, yeah, we had a script, we had a treatment, and we had all the scenes we wanted to have. And actually it worked really well on generating things that we wanted to have. But it took a really long time to get there. So we had to try a million different prompts to get the right sausage with the right cheese in the right speed and so on. And then we helped, of course, with speed ramps, with slowing it down, with editing, of course, and so on. Yeah.
Can you, first of all, very entertaining, thank you. Can you say about the cloud costs you spent, you know, in using Kling licenses?
Yeah, I think Christian, yeah.
Yes, I can answer that. Normally you pay, I think the biggest bundle you can buy on Kling is like 90 euros per month, I think. And in additional, you can pay for credits. So if you already used all of your credits, you can pay more of them. And I think in total, it's just, I'm just assuming, but it's like, I don't know, about between something like 2,000 euros, 2,500, I would say. So it's quite...
Yeah, thank you. And just one remark, I'm not sure if you're aware of, but the yellow tone of that campaign, in Baden-Württemberg, we have a similar campaign. It's called The Land, and I think it's the exact same color tone. So just
we have to check it out.
Just for you to know, it's there's also the cyber land and a lot of land with air. So yeah,
cool.
Okay, I think we have time maybe for one more question before we move on from the panel. Okay.
I have a question to the AI stuff. Did you try to direct the animations with the KI images with simple animations? So the movement of the sausage, maybe. Did you try this path to animate very rough animation and direct the KI to do that in a similar way?
No, not really. Not compared to After Effects or other animation tools, it's quite a more visual process than a technical process. You just direct in words what movement you want to get. Yeah. So it's not like you positioning or you have an Y or X axis. It's just telling the AI where it should move and which direction. So it's not that precise, but at some point you can get there.
Yeah. The thing is, you had little problems with the whole generating stuff again and again and again, and it could be a solution. Yeah, with a simple animation to bring the KI in the direction you want. So maybe that's a thing you can try in the future.
Okay. Was that a question?
Of course.
No, it was a direct comment.
Okay, I believe if there are no other questions, we're at the end of our time slot. We're just over about a minute. Considering the small technical difficulties we had, that's actually quite good. We're going to take a bit of a lunch break, and then we'll be back at 2 with our next panel, Animation and Performance, which I'm looking forward to. Thank you so much for attending. Go grab some lunch, come back, be here at 2. We'll start again. And if not, join us online. Enjoy the rest of the expanded conference and the Animation Festival. Thank you.